So maybe we ought to thank them or at least support them. The fact that their stock got overvalued by a factor of 3, or so the stock trades up by a factor of 10 and you bought it and then it trades down, and now your answer is, instead of criticizing yourself, you're criticizing them, right? You're a stock speculator. If you're an equity speculator and you buy stocks that are trading at 57 times revenue and then it trades down, the fault is not with the company. The fault is with you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I totally agree with that.
Right?
It's personal responsibility.
And so instead of criticizing companies that do rational things, look in the mirror, hold yourself accountable. The problem is not companies buying Bitcoin,
mm-hmm.
right? How much room is there? There's room for every company on earth to buy Bitcoin.
Hey guys, welcome to Everyday Finance. According to Michael Saylor, Bitcoin is digital capital, like electricity or the internet, rather than a bank or other financial institution. His approach concentrates on accumulation rather than becoming a bank, because it operates as an infrastructure layer rather than a service. This theory aligns nicely with the recent price trends of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has stayed steady in the mid-$90,000 area, despite growing geopolitical tensions with Venezuela, Iran, and even Greenland speculation, anxiety surrounding U.S. tariffs, and a potential Supreme Court decision. Since these risks have already been priced in, markets seem to be relatively unconcerned about them. While U.S. stocks and gold continue to reach all-time highs, Bitcoin saw a small decline before rising back to $95,000. Improving liquidity circumstances and the potential for additional Fed cash injections are seen by certain institutional desks as positive factors. According to this viewpoint, Bitcoin is still cheap when compared to gold, particularly if concerns about the depreciation of fiat money continue. Bitcoin is functioning more like a maturing macro asset than an emotional reaction.
The point is, you want to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But what's with all the hate? It's like, it's just so dysfunctional, like all of the toxicity in the community. There's 400 million businesses. Like, don't you have a business, Danny?
I do.
Okay.
With Bitcoin on the balance sheet.
Okay, so you want me to sit and do podcasts talking about how you shouldn't buy Bitcoin and you'll never be as good as some other Bitcoin treasury company and like heaping scorn on you and then criticizing all your, if you find some venture capitalist that wants to give you $10 million and invest in what Bitcoin did, should I then send emails and nasty grams to them, calling them stupid and criticizing them because they want to invest in you? And like, it's like, the point is, you have a business, you have to make a living. Your business is better with Bitcoin. By the way, what about the venture capitalists? I mean, like the subtext of all this is sort of like some toxicity and hatred and ignorance of people that invest in businesses for a living. Like the venture capitalist literally has a job where he has to invest capital
mm-hmm.
in your business. He has to.
Mm-hmm.
He's not allowed to buy Bitcoin. Okay, so, well, you're not going to be the biggest Bitcoin treasury company, Danny, but the point is the VC needs to invest in someone. He wants to invest in a podcaster. You can choose to take the money and buy Bitcoin with it, or you can not buy Bitcoin with it. I'm not sitting hating on you, and I'm not hating on him. And I'm not gleefully, disparaging people that buy equities. The point is, that guy's in the business of buying private equity. You're in the business of creating private equity. There are other people in the business of buying public equity. There are literally tens of trillions of dollars of capital locked up in the market, and they can't buy Bitcoin. They can't invest in a private company.
Mm-hmm.
They have to invest in a public company. And the issue is, should a public company buy Bitcoin so they can invest in it? Of course they should. Right? Some of them need to buy Japanese companies. Some of them need to buy Brazilian companies. I have capital. I have to invest in Brazilian companies. So you're a Brazilian company. You buy Bitcoin with it. You're never going to be the biggest Bitcoin holder in the United States. But what does that matter?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if you're the 14th company in Brazil that buys Bitcoin? Well, I mean, the whole point here, the part that people are missing is, and this is my issue with the Bitcoin community in general, they would rather eat their young, and they would rather criticize other people that buy Bitcoin or support Bitcoin in a different way than them. Like you're not a self-custody maxi, or you don't do it the way I should do it. You should put it on like 16 titanium plates and bury it under the dirt in 8 continents in order to be a true Bitcoiner. They've got all these criticisms, but 99% of the world doesn't even know they exist and won't give them a nickel and hates them. Or constructively, 99% of the world is your enemy, and they don't criticize the 99% of the world that's their enemy. They focus on the 1% of the world that agrees with them on 99% of substantive values. And so like we spend so much time being critical of other Bitcoiners and other Bitcoin companies. And the truth of the matter is the guy that likes Bitcoin is 99% aligned with you and 1% different. Okay, so I live in the UK or you live in Germany and you speak German and you speak English with an accent. So I'm going to hate on you because you have an accent when you agree with, when you say something in English agreeing with me with an accent, I'm going to spend all my time critiquing your accent. And I feel like a lot of the debate in the community is that. And it's just such a waste of time. It's so non-constructive, right? The answer is there's 400 million companies. Some of them are good companies, some of them are bad. If you've got a monopoly, good for you. By the way, you don't even need to buy Bitcoin. You have a monopoly, right? They're going to be the last ones to buy Bitcoin. If you've got a competitive business, you're struggling, you buy Bitcoin, then maybe it's the difference between success and failure of your business. If you have a business which is a weak business, okay, so whatever, you sell beverages in Australia and you're not Coca-Cola. Well, that doesn't mean you're an evil person. That doesn't mean you don't deserve to exist. Maybe Bitcoin is your lifeline. Like what if your family collectively spends more money than they make and you have no chance or no hope of making more than you need to spend, and I give you the chance to invest in Bitcoin, and that's the difference between your family going bankrupt and being destitute or not. It's like, I got some podcaster that's going to criticize my family because we're not Apple Computer. It's like, it's just so offensive that you would criticize someone struggling to make a living by in essence investing in the same thing you invest in.
Are you saying I'm criticizing these people?
I'm just saying anyone that's criticizing a Bitcoin company is like piling on to a person that agrees with them on 99% of the fundamentals. And what you ought to do is applaud their decision, right? They basically decided that freedom and sovereignty and economic integrity and Bitcoin was apex property, and that's a good thing, and they've joined the movement. So maybe we ought to thank them or at least support them. The fact that their stock got overvalued by a factor of 3, so the stock trades up by a factor of 10 and you bought it and then it trades down, and now your answer is, instead of criticizing yourself, you're criticizing them, right? You're a stock speculator. If you're an equity speculator and you buy stocks that are trading at 57 times revenue and then it trades down, the fault is not with the company. The fault is with you.
I totally agree with that.
Right?
It's personal responsibility.
And so instead of criticizing companies that do rational things, look in the mirror, hold yourself accountable. The problem is not companies buying Bitcoin. Right? How much room is there? There's room for every company on earth to buy Bitcoin, Danny.
After Bitcoin achieved a daily close above the 2025 yearly open at $93,500, a level not seen since early January, bulls gained confidence from a technical perspective. Higher prices were once again possible as a result of the bullish structure being reestablished. The upside path is still congested, though. The crucial psychological and narrative shifting level is $100,000, while the 50-week IMA, around $97,650, is an important resistance zone. Stronger inflows and a swift shift in market mood might result from a clean breakout above $100,000. However, a quick sweep of liquidity lower could be triggered by rejection close to resistance. Volume and momentum are being watched carefully by traders for indications of either side's commitment. The market is now balanced, indicating that participation rather than headlines will determine the next big move.
Okay, but we're not here to promote bad companies, are we? That's kind of like, okay, well, I invented electricity and some dude that sells, I don't know, like cardboard, cotton candy placards for $1 billion announces he's going to buy electricity. I mean, my point is, like, should you invest in the cardboard, cotton candy company that sells cotton candy cardboard boxes for $1 billion? Of course not. But my problem with your framing is you're saying, I don't know if the market has room for more than a couple of companies to buy Bitcoin. Look, the market has room for every company on earth to buy Bitcoin. Right? The market, and by the way, there's a simple way to think about this. If you've got a successful business or a healthy business and you're generating cash and you buy Bitcoin, won't you be better? Okay. If you have a business which sometimes makes money, it's a struggling business, and some years it makes money, some years it doesn't make money, but you have a lot of cash, wouldn't you be better to invest the cash in Bitcoin than give it away?
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't you be better to invest the cash in Bitcoin than buy treasuries? Okay, so good companies benefit from buying Bitcoin, and then struggling companies benefit from buying Bitcoin. Now, if you have a company which makes no money, that's never going to make any money, that has 100 million in cash, your choice is give the money away, you've got no company. Invest the money in Bitcoin, you've got a company that generates no cash in its operating business but makes 30 million a year, growing at 30% a year. I give you a digital company that is generating 30 million a year, growing 30% a year. Was that a good decision by the company?
Yep.
Okay, and so now your issue is, now I have a company which is losing 10 million a year forever, and I can make 30 million in Bitcoin growing 30% a year. That means I start with, $20 million, but the business is growing. Statistically, by the way, if you start with 100 million in Bitcoin and you bolt on $10 million of losses forever, then the business converges on the same result as a business that doesn't lose anything forever, because eventually you're making $1 billion a year and you're generating 10 million in losses. And so you've still got a business making $1 billion a year. Is that a good idea? Okay, so what's your problem? Like your problem is, I think part of the issue is people in the Bitcoin community can't imagine buying equity, or they're like, well, that's not as good as buying Bitcoin. Well, that's not actually true. It is as good as buying. It's actually better, because corporations have all sorts of tax advantages and all sorts of operational advantages. Take the business which is losing 10 million a year. That business can generate $1 billion of capital and turn around and go raise money at 5%, risk-free, 10 years out, and buy Bitcoin with it, lever it up, and they'll probably outperform Bitcoin. I take issue with your question. It's an ignorant, insulting, myopic question. Why do you frame things that way? We're not competing with each other. That's like saying, well, like I heard my neighbor bought Bitcoin and I bought Bitcoin. There's not enough room for both of us to buy Bitcoin. We're competing with each other. Now, my neighbor's got to buy another crypto asset? Like, we're not competing with each other, Danny. Like that's the ignorant part of the question, right? That's what I take issue with. What you have, if you're a hotel company in Japan, you're competing with other hotel companies in Japan. And the decision to buy Bitcoin is just a decision to improve the quality of your company. It's like saying how many companies can have electricity. I heard 200 companies have electricity, but there's one company that uses a lot of it. So do the other companies have to change their strategy? Dude, like, you think they had the same strategy? It's a silly question, and it's a myopic, ignorant, toxic framing of a question. And the result is you come to some ignorant conclusion.
Okay.
There's room for 400 million companies to buy Bitcoin, Danny. Do insurance companies compete with my company? I don't sell insurance. No. Do banks compete with my company? I don't sell bank. I'm not a bank. I don't buy consumer credit. Do I issue credit cards? No. Do exchanges compete with my company? No. We're not an exchange. Do companies that create AI compete with my company? No. None of these people compete with my company. There's a million, we literally just said there's 400 million companies. Why do you think that there's only one possible business strategy for a company that holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet? That's like saying there's only one thing you can do with electricity. Okay, what's the one thing? There's more than one thing you can do.
Of course.
That's like, oh, well, we speak English. Well, there's only one thing you could do if you speak English. We use dollars. Bitcoin is just a digital capital asset. You can literally do millions of things with digital capital, which is why I take offense every time you try to characterize us as competing with each other. You're creating this dog-eat-dog world where everybody competes. We're not competing with each other. Companies that adopted electricity, decided they didn't want to rely on donkey carts. And you're sitting here criticizing companies that adopted electricity instead of use donkeys. And it's like, I just think it's offensive and it's myopic and we ought to be constructive. Why don't you applaud them for not using donkey carts and using electricity? And then why don't you think, well, maybe there's more than one thing I can do with electricity. Maybe there'll be a world of Hollywood movies, and maybe we'll create elevators, and maybe we'll create electric cars, and maybe we'll create hair dryers, and maybe we'll create air conditioners with electricity. You can't imagine anything you could do with digital capital?
Of course.
Insurance, credit, banking, exchanges, derivatives, money funds. How about everything on earth that's ever been done would be done better with credit?
I mean, I'm really not trying to criticize these companies. I'm just trying to get your perspective on it. I'm sorry if that was an offensive question.
You're getting my perspective on it,
Yeah.
which is you're wasting your time criticizing companies that decided they like Bitcoin.
For retail traders, the October 10th sudden crypto collapse was a significant turning point. Leverage was removed from the system, bringing an abrupt stop to years of preference for higher-risk cryptocurrencies. Fear of contagion and a deeper bear market nearly immediately replaced the optimism surrounding a long-awaited altcoin season. In response, retail investors switched to Ether and Bitcoin, preferring relative stability and liquidity over speculative gains. By year's end, retail stance reflected a defensive and capital preservation mindset, closely resembling institutional strategy. This change dashed expectations for long-term cryptocurrency rallies. The majority of cryptocurrency movements in 2025 acted more like short-term trades than long-term trends. Even though new storylines kept emerging, however, the October panic is gradually subsiding. Even if retail is still cautious and far more discriminating than in prior cycles, the value of the entire cryptocurrency market has increased to annual highs, and confidence is gradually returning.